From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, former NFL quarterback Erik Kramer. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Brian on sound effects. And now, snubbed again for a Kennedy Center honor, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get a mandate. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Brian.
Oh, still working on it.
Still working on the new computer.
I'll give you more everything.
There you go. A real-time recreation. Erik Kramer, my old friend, 13 years in the NFL as a starting quarterback, will come in, and we read you the whole crazy, tragic story about his son OD'ing and about him trying to kill himself. And hopefully he's on the mend. There he is, and we can come in and have a conversation with him.
I'm really excited for you.
Yeah,
to be able to connect with him.
It was really, like I said, you know, his dad was very impactful in my life.
He was your coach.
Yeah, he was one of the coaches, but he was the guy who was tickled pink when I came back for my second year for the East Valley Trojans.
After riding that pine.
Back in the 70s, yeah. He played for the Falcons and the Lions and the Bears and the Chargers, so he's got a lot of completions. Over 15,000 yards. He's got a pretty serious NFL career. So we'll talk to him about that. Yeah. On that note, actually, I was trying to take the walk down memory lane and find the old team pictures and blah, blah, blah. And an old picture that I don't remember existed, but I do remember taking the picture, which is our team picture was slated. It's the black and white picture, Max Zapata. Our team picture was slated for the day after the game I dislocated my shoulder. So what happened with me is in this picture, my right shoulder's underneath my jersey, and my jersey, which they cut off of me during the game, they literally just came out to the middle of the field and they saw what kind of shape my shoulder was in, and they weren't going to try to pull my shoulder pads or my jersey off me. They cut it off me. That jersey was then sort of draped over me to take this team picture where I mustered a smile, but my shoulder was still out of socket when we took the team picture. And then at some point I went back and surgically, but not cutting the flesh, just was put under general.
Was it Mel Gibson style? You just slam it against the file cabinet?
I wish that's how my shoulder worked. My shoulder would not go back into place, and anyone who tried got one shot, and if it didn't work, there was no second shot at it. It was so wildly and excruciatingly painful that I had to check in the hospital several days later and then just be put under. And once you're under, they can do with you what they will. Sure. But at the time, it was difficult. So,
and you know what every girl says when they see a picture like that? What I would have paid for that head of hair. Look at the curls. Look at the sheen.
Yeah, the big 70s hair. Plus, it wasn't like I could fix it up for the picture. I couldn't like comb my hair or anything. I just slept on. I remember I had to sleep on the sofa in my house.
Oh, an upgrade.
Yeah, an upgrade. I slept on the sofa because I was peeing in a jar, essentially, and had to sort of lay on my back on this sofa, as I recall. Or maybe that's just the only room that had the TV. I couldn't be moved. It was a weird time, and I vividly remember. As you guys, I've told you guys this, but I played the next year. I was like, I'm definitely playing. And everyone's like, you're insane. And I was like, nah, playing. So played the next year, and shoulder never came out. Once it comes out a lot easier. It's like killing prostitutes. Sure. It's the first time that's hard.
That's the hardest one.
Then it becomes easy after that. It never came out again. I had various other injuries, but never that right shoulder never popped out again. All right, so Erik will come in and we'll take a little walk down memory lane. I have a thought. Here's a thought. I was talking to Dr. Drew about this earlier today. They used to say, Drew, I've always had these thoughts about, especially in this day and age of sort of information overload, that you need something tactile. You need a project. You got to have something to occupy your mind. And some of the sanest people I know are the project-oriented guys. They're rebuilding a car, they're rebuilding a deck, and it's just you're in that place.
No idle hands.
Yeah, you're thin in no idle minds. Like you're just, that's your project. That's what's ahead of you. And they used to say that the most stress a couple will endure is doing a big remod at their house.
Sure, I can see that.
So that was 20 years ago, and they'd go, oh, it's so much stress. And I remember when, yeah, makes sense. You're tearing up the master bedroom and doing the kitchen. And
doing the dishes in the bathtub.
Right.
Or whatever.
Stress. But I was saying to Drew, and he agreed, I think if you went back and redid that study today, that you would find that the happiest people were doing a remod versus bathing in information and fake news and COVID and Twitter, and because you get focused like a laser. Like every day it's like, we got the tile guy's coming. We got to get the tile guy in, or we got to make a decision on the wallpaper. Otherwise, and you're just sucked into this world.
Something tactile.
Yeah, and the world we used to think of as a stressful world, but I think now you would call it a pleasant distraction.
Yeah, it's an escape.
And I would say that if you took your average couple that hung out and just watched a lot of news versus your average couple that was knee-deep in a remod, I think you would find the knee-deep remod couple was less stressed or a little, mentally in a better place.
Yeah,
and not just the news, the social media is probably supplanted.
Just everything versus nothing. It's just like, when you go to Alaska and you go fishing, you just think about fishing.
Brian and I wouldn't know.
It sounds nice.
It is, and it was. So that was my little thought experiment. Also, something for Brian.
Let's hear it.
I've been saw a lot of trailers for the new M. Night Shyamalan Old.
Oh boy, no Rotten Tomato score as of now.
Oh.
Not a good sign.
I looked this morning.
Oh, there's a score?
No.
Okay.
That's my point.
I looked last night and there was no score.
No news is bad news. And so I was like, is he coming back? Is the trailer, sometimes you see the trailer and it's like, this doesn't work, but somehow the movie does. No reviews on Rotten Tomatoes is not good.
And when was his last movie?
Okay, his last movie was the one with Bruce Willis, the Insane Asylum.
The three guys.
Yeah. It wasn't a Split. It was the sequel to Split.
Right, yes.
Split was good.
Split was good.
M. Night Shyamalan's had a fascinating career. Of course, got out of the gate super strong with Sixth Sense. Unbreakable, I liked. That was a good movie. Signs had its moments. The Village.
The Village was a comedic romp.
The Village had a couple of moments.
I laughed out loud.
The Last Airbender and The Lady in the Water. He bottomed out pretty hard. Yeah. Then he came back with Split. Split was legitimately good. It was a hit. It was like, M. Night Shyamalan's really back. He found his fastball again. And then whatever the fucking last one, Glass. I think it was called Glass.
Because those were the guys.
Yeah.
The Glass and Unbreakable, Mr. Glass or whatever.
I would guess the Rotten Tomato score is somewhere around 20.
Wow.
The comeback stalled before it started.
So why does he keep getting chances every 3 years?
I think his movies do well internationally because they're very broad. They're thrillers. You know what I mean? They don't translate. He did that stupid with Mark Wahlberg, the fucking Greenhouse Effect.
Yeah,
happening.
The grass is,
right.
Never mind.
I called
I won't
Mike
spoil
Lynch
it.
when that ended on the way home and said, "Don't go see The Happening."
Oh,
He
right,
called it
The
out of the
Happening.
blue.
They should have just called it Chemlon.
Yeah, so M. Night, again, the no reviews a day or so before it comes out is kind of tantamount to he wouldn't take the breathalyzer.
It rarely
kind of.
goes well.
Yeah,
say no to the truth detector or the lie detector.
There's a reason why. Anyway,
And it's like they go to the beach and they turn old, or
yes,
It's a cursed beach.
Okay, that's cool.
all right. Now on a happier note, I
Still
was
still gonna see it.
I was watching TV, and they had a Texas State representative named Synfronia Thompson.
Ooh.
Synfronia Thompson. And she was talking about, they left Texas, they didn't want to vote, and they went to Washington, and then there were some coronavirus problems, and then they came back. But that's not what this is about. She was giving a news conference, and I'll play it for you, and then it reminded me of something.
Okay.
So then we did a little mashup I had Chris work on. All right, we'll play the...
We refuse to be a hostage.
That's right.
To remain a hostage within the state of Texas. And I know that there are search warrants out for us, and I'm ready to be arrested. What do you do to a slave if you don't do nothing but arrest them when they flee? We fled Texas, and if they want to arrest me, go ahead. I'm ready to be arrested.
All right. Maybe all the slavery and Jim Crow references in 2021, I don't find that helpful, but that's not my point.
Okay.
My point is I was watching her, and I was thinking, she looks familiar to me. And with that, I will play you this clip. Okay. We did a little mashup.
We refuse to be a hostage.
That's right.
To remain a hostage within the state of Texas.
But if they don't want to get help, it ain't gonna happen.
Oh, my God.
What do you do to a slave if you don't do nothing but arrest them when they flee? We fled Texas.
Exactly. How the hell are a man gonna put a woman out her own house?
Haven't we done enough?
What was you doing while he was working, honey?
Have we paid the price enough?
You want to bet? It can happen one of two ways, honey. You can get it from his checking account voluntarily, or his insurance policy, involuntary manslaughter. Which one is gonna be?
I was so I owe an apology to Tyler Perry, because I always thought that was a farcical character that sort of made fun of women of color of a certain age. But I didn't know he was dead nuts on.
He got the hair and the glasses.
And it's got the sound and the inflection down. So
that's a voice twin.
I don't normally say this, but I'm sorry, Tyler Perry. You got it. You got it right. I got it wrong.
She could do ADR.
She definitely. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. And he may owe her some money. I don't know if there's a intellectual property situation here. I should talk to Garagos about it. But there it is. I don't want to see it one more time, the mashup next, Pat, just because it makes me laugh.
We refuse to be a hostage.
That's right.
To remain a hostage within the state of Texas.
But if they don't want to get help, it ain't gonna happen. You listen to me.
What do you do to a slave if you don't do nothing but arrest them when they flee? We fled Texas.
Exactly. How the hell are a man gonna put a woman out her own house?
Haven't we done enough?
What was you doing while he was working, honey?
Have we paid the price enough?
You want to bet? It can happen one of two ways, honey.
All right.
You can get it from...
We got it. That's for you, Dawson. I know you love that shit. Good mashup. But it is kind of interesting in that if I see anything, I try to connect it to something. And I don't know what that is, but every time I see something, I go, what is that? What is the connection, or what can I draw an equivalency to?
You done did it.
I done did it with the great Tyler Perry.
I've never seen a Tyler Perry movie.
But you got to see the first one.
I've seen almost every M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'm going to see this one. Does it be racist?
Yeah, because you support a man of color, I guess.
Yeah.
He's Indian, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you do not support another man of color in the name
With
of
the
Tyler
same
Perry.
batting average for movies.
I can take a long look in the mirror.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. I don't even know what.
I don't know. How do you segue from
I don't
that?
know what that is. I'm having difficulty segueing.
Play that
from
for
it.
Erik Kramer. Get his thoughts.
All right. Then I was, let's see, what do we want to get into here, Max Zapata? Got a list of stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say this might not be for today, but the other day I found and I sent it to Chris a few days ago, so it might take a few minutes, but I think it's 1984 Pontiac showcasing all of their cars for the year.
Fancy.
Yeah. When did they go out of business? Because we had a Pontiac when I was little.
Pontiac just went out of business. If they still are, or if they're not out of business, you definitely. I said it when we were in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is when you walk around a town like Appleton, Wisconsin, and you're used to Los Angeles, you go, well, what are the differences? And, Appleton, Wisconsin had outdoor piano players, and they had trash cans everywhere, and things were decent and clean and stuff. But the biggest thing you notice is Pontiacs. There are Pontiacs everywhere in Appleton, Wisconsin. You go to the right place in this country, you see. Now, we live, I live in a place where I see Teslas everywhere all the time. The places I'm at in Los Angeles, it is maybe the highest percentage car I see is Tesla. But you go to
with like the Bay Area. I was just there, like they're driving back to SFO. Fucking Teslas everywhere.
Everywhere. But if you go to Appleton, Wisconsin, you shall see no Teslas. But all of a sudden, they're lousy with Pontiac.
Pontiac country.
Didn't Joe Coy do a very funny video at the Tacomas in like Honolulu or something?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like there's certain regions just are like all about that car.
Yeah. And I guess, California and affluent and all that kind of stuff.
Headquartered up there, too.
And headquartered up there, too. Although
Texas.
Yeah, Pontiac is from
founded, I should say.
Pontiac, Michigan, I guess.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's where Pontiac started. And 2010, Pontiac went out of business. So that was their last thing. But they're still on the road in big numbers in certain places. Certain places you go.
Well, if a young Adam Carolla ever wants to see his future car that he could only dream of, like the Firebird and stuff, we have a commercial.
Oh, really? Well, I don't know. I feel like we should take a look at that. The other thing is I think Bezos was getting a lot of shit because he did his press conference after he got off the rocket, and he said, I want to thank everyone who works for Amazon and the people who buy at Amazon. They paid for this trip. And then, of course, everyone, billionaires can't make statements anymore without a certain segment of society getting their panties in a bunch. But
just the existence of billionaires, that's a large number of people.
But don't we let's put it this way: none of us are kids, and we aren't going to be on the planet for 200 years, and because of Branson and Bezos and Elon Musk soon, there's a very realistic chance that we could go to outer space as civilians in our lifetime if we so choose. I mean, I don't know what not next year, but 10 years from now, I think there's plans that we could all whatever. And the fact that these big swinging dick billionaires are all sort of vying for the same prize. They're competing, they're wanting to get up faster and whatever. Don't we like that? I mean, if it was up to the government and NASA, that would not be a realistic
it's the modern day space race.
Right. So good. Let them spend their money and let them do this. And then you go... Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt, but on that point, you could make the argument this is better than government-funded space travel, because I just watched, side note, the documentary Summer of Soul about the 1969 Black Woodstock, the Harlem Cultural Festival. It was the exact same summer, same weekend.
Oh, now he's scoring points with the black community, but yet he turns his back on Medea's 27 offerings.
Only watched it because Tyler Perry had no involvement. And it was the same weekend as the moon landing, and so there was a reporter there, very, very buttoned-up white reporter, like, what do you think of the moon landing? And he's interviewing just black attendees at the Harlem Cultural Festival, and they're all saying, like, honestly, I don't give a shit. It doesn't affect me, and that money could have been used to feed a lot of people. And that's a good argument. Like, it was a great moment for our country, but that's a lot of money, of taxpayer money.
That is the most. That quote is the most of the grievances I'm seeing on social media.
But at least it's private equity, though, at least.
Right. And I'm not saying I agree. I'm saying this is, like, you're asking, like, what's everyone's getting their, panties in a bunch. Everyone's like, we could have clean water. We could feed this. But no, these guys have to play with their toys, whatever. But I feel like people like Branson and they don't like Bezos. Like, we like Branson, right?
Yeah. Well, Branson's English, right?
Yeah.
We're done with sort of rich Americans.
Yeah,
we do not seem
hats.
to have the beef with the guy with the English accent.
Right.
I think there's some of that. It would be interesting because England is in Western Europe is getting pretty woke, if not maybe possibly more woke than we are here in the United States. It'd be an interesting little case study if they didn't like Branson in England but liked Bezos more, because that's just the devil you don't know.
Right.
I'm sure Kaylin could look that up. Approval rating by country.
But there's also...
We're never very high
There's
anymore.
also this.
I mean, individuals approval rating by country.
Yeah, these guys are... I heard some stat that, I won't even bother giving it out because I can't even remember it. But it used to cost X amount a kilo to put something into outer space. So a satellite for your phone or television or whatever, communications or whatever it is, with X amount per pound. That's what they charge. Since these guys got involved, that price has come way down, which of course makes sense because that someone doesn't have a monopoly.
Right.
Yeah, they're looking to save, ostensibly save a buck.
And it's also they're also trying to, they're competing against one another. And then you could kind of say, well... But then how do we know it's safe? Because, they're not overseen, probably.
Yeah, but they're not going to shoot themselves into space.
They're regulated, but whoever's rocket blows up, that's going to hurt business pretty badly.
Yeah.
I'm frankly impressed that these guys, not so much Branson with the drop from the airplane, but a rocket ship, just getting into a rocket ship at the pretty early stages of all this stuff.
I wouldn't do it.
It feels pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they know a bunch of shit that I don't know, but it still seems crazy ballsy to get into launch a rocket from the ground straight up into the air when we could all just close our eyes and see endless footage of those things going up and coming back around and boom,
That makes me wonder, with all this stuff we've been talking about flight, and maybe they think that airlines are small potatoes because obviously they care more about going to space. Would there be an Amazon airline?
Absolutely see that.
Yeah.
I guess. I was going to say, it doesn't sound like a great name for an airline, but...
It only goes to South America.
Well, we have Airbus, so now
it's all
the world's worst name for a plane, an Airbus.
Right.
And maybe we should change the name of that, because I feel like a lot of people are throwing down and fighting on Airbuses like they would on a
bus.
On a bus, you know what I mean? Maybe it's the word bus that is screwing everybody up.
Air limos.
Airbus is a French company, so I imagine it means something different over
Airbus.
there. Or it has an implication as well.
It has to sound better. All right, I think we have your Pontiac commercial.
This features the fleet.
From 1984.
I think it's 84.
Yeah, first up the Fiero. I can tell by just the front headlights. Yeah.
Excitement. Nobody's got it like Pontiac.
Hot chick.
Why is she there?
Hot model.
Introducing the fuel-injected Fiero.
Sonic drums.
She's driving.
Fiero, North America's first two-passenger mid-engine production car. Pontiac 6000 STE, Euro-style touring sedan. Sophistication, high-tech performance.
Kit.
Pontiac 2000 Sunbird SE. Unleash its fuel-injected
Do you remember a
turbo
Sunbird?
power.
Yeah, anything with sun in it is a bad car.
Look at this guy.
Firebird. Feel the rush of pure excitement with Trans Am.
Driving gloves and
For
sunglasses.
1984, Pontiac builds
And a bulge.
excitement.
Why is he sprinting for the car that's parked in the middle of nowhere?
Pontiac.
Yeah. God, we were, again, I always say, just look at the commercials. They're just little snapshots of that was exactly 1984 in that commercial. You couldn't say, oh, was that from the 70s or the 50s
Early
or
90s.
the
No.
2000s? Like,
March 84.
that's right. You could get it down to the month.
It's funny because you'd be moan like, Subaru and Love and puppies and all that shit, working its way into car commercials. And it's funny though, because this had the same thing in a way, which is the models. What the fuck did the hot models have to do with the cars? Like,
Yes.
this car will get it. No, it won't. No, it won't. That car's going to maybe get you a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Spoiler alert, but they've put one of those. This is to take my all my stories and put them into one hamper. In Fast 9, they fired a Fiero into outer space.
Oh, is that what that car was?
Yes, that car was a
Honestly,
Pontiac Fiero.
That wasn't that bad of a scene. I didn't mind that.
Yeah, except for the part where he shifted it into gear in outer space and then hit the NOS.
Muscle memory.
And then steered it into the satellite. That was a little weird because I've not driven a Pontiac in space, but it sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song. But yes,
I don't foresee myself seeing it anytime soon. Were they like catapulting it like a trebuchet, or was somebody driving it and like legitimately?
No, booster rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Shane, it's scientifically plausible.
Understood.
All right, let's see. So we'll do the news a little earlier as well. Right after I tell you about Tommy John this summer, man. Soak up the sun, but not the sweat. Tommy John, cool cotton fabric, 2 to 3 times cooler than regular cotton. Get a pair of the new Tommy John underwear and let your buns breathe. This stuff is so good. You just, especially during the summer, but, if you're out walking and you're out working out or working a little lather up, a little sweat, you got to get your Tommy Johns, man. They dry on you so much faster if you get a little sweat going on them. Dozens of comfort innovations. Tommy John, they don't have customers, they have fanatics. I'm wearing mine now. I would not leave the house without the Tommy Johns on. And by the way, 15 million pairs sold, tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. Best pair you'll ever wear. It's free. Guarantee. Right, Dawson?
Right now, get 20% off your first order at TommyJohn.com/Adam. Go to TommyJohn.com/Adam for 20% off. TommyJohn.com/Adam. See site for details.
All right. So Erik Kramer's going to come in, and we'll take a little walk down memory lane. And but first, we'll take a break, and we'll do the news right after this.
Give me the news with crack. News with Gino Grad. Breaking viral. Weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden. Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, since my first story is about Britney Spears, I wanted to let you guys know I started watching this really fun series on, I believe, Netflix called This Is Pop. And I think
I've seen some of that.
It's interesting. Did you see the Stockholm Syndrome one about how all pop music comes out of Sweden?
No.
That was my favorite one. I mean, every boy band, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC.
Out of Sweden?
All of them, all those songs come out of Sweden. All the hits that Hit Me Baby One More Time, all the big Backstreet Boys songs. It's really interesting how Sweden became the only place that anyone would go to produce these songs. Huh. And there's a Boys to Men one that's good. There's one about festival music. It's really cool.
So, I mean, the poppiest band of all time is Abba.
Abba is featured heavily in this show.
They are. I mean, they may be the poppiest.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the most sort of pop sound.
Yeah, they were, or at least Benny or Bjorn, or one of them was in a cover band, and then the Beatles got famous on their own songs, and he's like, well, we could make our own songs, and then the 3 or the 4 of them got together, and they did one of those not Eurovision, but like the Euro concert.
Festival, yeah.
And everyone always comes out in like ball gowns and always sings a ballad, and they come out looking like, their jumpsuits and almost like Kiss, doing Waterloo, which really like freaked everybody out. And Sweden was super embarrassed by them, but the rest of the world embraced them.
Yeah, I saw a doc on one of the ABBA ladies. I can't think of what that doc was called, but it was weird. I mean, then they broke up, then she got divorced, and then whatever. And at some point, she married some like younger guy who was like using her and everything. It didn't seem to have a super happy ending for her. But you're saying all those songs come out of Sweden,
yes,
and that they are written in Sweden or they're produced?
Written by Swedish producers and produced by Swedes. Like that is their export, is American pop music. And they realized like with ABBA, when they start singing in English, they blew up, and everybody speaks English over there. And just this guy Dennis Pop, I don't know what his real name was, but Dennis Pop started this company and like produced every 90s pop, 2000s pop you could think of. Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, everybody.
I wonder if maybe pop music is arguably the whitest of all music. I mean, I know country's pretty honky town, but
honestly, you can't discount Motown, man. I mean, like pop music. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's a Little Richard and the founding fathers, Chuck Berry and Fats Domino.
It's funny you should say that.
Well, I love Motown, but maybe we need the whitest people on the planet making the poppiest music of all time. I feel people here are too influenced by.
That's interesting.
By Motown.
That's really funny you said that, because the one I watched back to back was the Boys to Men one, and how 98 Degrees, all the bands, like Boys to Men had #1 hits for 16, 17, 18 weeks in a row. It was insane. And they talked about, so all the boy bands started stealing their sound, their harmonies, and they said, our job was harder because we had to cross over. Right. These guys are just pop stars.
The boy bands all copied 90s R&B, all that. Mostly crappy, but Boys to Men was good.
Yeah, it's a fun series. Anyway.
Netflix.
Yeah. I brought it up because the Free Britney movement is going to Washington. 2 members of the House proposed the Free Britney Act. That's what it'll be called. If it becomes law, it will give individuals under conservatorship the right to ask the court-appointed private guardian to be replaced with someone free from financial conflicts of interest. And we talked about that specifically, how crazy it is that, like, the dad makes all the choices, controls the purse strings, and, like, when he wants to sue someone, he uses her money. So they want to do something
when he
about
wants
that.
to serve her a cease and desist, he uses her money.
Right.
Oh, wait, I have a thought.
Yes.
Which is, ironically, Erik Kramer's got a lot of thoughts about this subject, because one of the things he wanted to talk about is conservatorship.
Who controls his money.
Yeah.
But, I always joked, but I'm never really joking, that the way we should round up the deadbeat dads and the felons is to put the sign in front of the Coliseum that says free cockfight for Raiders fans only, and whoever shows up, we throw a net on them. Yeah. I kind of feel that way about the Free Britney people. Like, it's Wednesday, it's noon, and you're standing in front of the courthouse.
With a foam core board.
And corkies and a foam core board, and you've been out there for 7 hours. We got to round you up.
Yeah.
You are not contributing to society. I don't know what you seem able-bodied.
Yeah.
You seem old enough.
Right. You're energetic.
Why the fuck ain't you paying taxes? What's going on here?
The same people that gathered for Michael Jackson.
Yes, I guarantee if I went and hit that crowd hard, and by the way, that's not an independently wealthy crowd. I guarantee there's a lot of Social Security going on, or welfare abuse, unemployment, a lot of disability claims. I will guarantee if I found the average 27-year-old white dude who's standing out there with a foam core with the Free Britney, he would be getting a check from somewhere, and it would be a disability thing, and he would explain that his back, he worked at the Home Depot in Burbank, but that was 7 years ago, and there's a lawsuit, whatever. You're standing out in the curb with a sign above your head for 17 hours. You can fucking work, dude.
I think you're right.
I'm going to round them up. That'll be my doc.
Well done. So the bill was introduced by the bipartisan team of Democrat Charlie Crist of Florida and Republican Nancy Mace of South Carolina.
Coming together.
Finally. Over something important. This is what Crist said. Abusive conservatorships can be an unending nightmare, and tragically, we don't know how many people are being held captive against their will under the broken guardianship system. We do know, however, that we need federal safeguards to protect persons under guardianship from abuse and exploitation. I think this could get passed.
Can
easily.
we just have, maybe we need this, like look, if you're under, this stuff was made for people in their 80s who have dementia or losing
Can't take care of
losing
themselves.
it. Can't take care of themselves. If you're 39, maybe we just need a field sobriety test, a punt, pass, and kick competition of how are you sane enough to handle your own affairs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, some basic math. What would you do if a policeman pulled you over? What would you say? And
so basically, Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Yes.
An obstacle course.
We give you a little test. If you pass the test, you're on your own. You can function. You can make decisions. You know what it should be. And I don't know if Erik Kramer took this, but the God damn it, MLIC. What was the
like the mini mental, like the cognitive test?
Yeah, NFL.
The Wonderlic.
Wonderlic.
What's that?
It says.
They're trying to figure out if the quarterback who's being drafted has a 10-cent head or it's a Tom Brady type situation.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So they want to know your intellectual sort
Wow.
of grasp and capacities, but I don't think it's a whole bunch of, it's 3rd and 7, who's your check down? I
No,
think
it's
it's
an
just
intelligence test.
general
Right.
intelligence test.
I like that Brady was your example. What is Brady's Wonderlic test score? I went to high school with the guy. He can't be that high.
Well, then he learned a lot on the job because that guy has figured out. I mean, he's not getting by on size, arm strength.
No,
and,
he knows the game really well.
And
Right.
speed. He doesn't have the foot speed. He didn't bench press anything good.
Right.
He didn't do anything, but he intellectually understands the game.
Well, and I'll do you one better. If her kids are above, let's say her kids are above 18. I don't think they are, but say they're adults. Why does Brittany need a conservatorship? This whole thing, I know I'm boiling it down to its most simple, but like if she can't take care of her kids, that's a family court issue. And
Right.
if they're adults, then who cares if she puts her money in a pile and burns it? It's her money.
If we can find the Wonderlic test, I bet that would work for conservatorships.
Yeah, probably. It's like
as well.
problem-solving stuff and general
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
But who cares what she does with her money?
If I was
No, I'm saying to get someone out of
No,
this,
I get it. I get it.
So we need some way to measure whether you are capable of handling your own shit or
Right.
not. And I'm saying put it on
already have it.
paper.
Yeah.
Just let them see what their capacity is.
I'm curious what this test is like.
Although if I were the attorney that was retained by Brittany's dad who wants to keep the conservatorship going, I would do no studying. I would put no graphs together. I would get no forensic accounting. I would hire no experts. I would do nothing. And Brittany's dad would go, "How's the case going?" I'd go, "Oh, I'm just working on my roto leak." And he'd go, "Why aren't you working?" I go, "I got this. I got it. I got it covered." And Brittany's defense would put on the whole theatrics and bring up all their experts and show all the graphs and do all the stuff. And at the end, they turned to me to counter, and I would just go, "Well, we're trying to judge whether she's sane or not. She had kids with Kevin Federline." All right.
Pretty damning.
So I rest my case. She started a family with Kevin Federline. And let me just show you a couple of his videos. This
Popo
is him.
Zhao.
There's Popo Zhao. Okay.
I rest my
Anyway,
case.
that is my case.
Smart.
Tom Brady's Wonderlic score reportedly 33
Out of
50. It's pretty middling
I
for
don't
a
know what
quarterback.
I don't know what the average
For a white quarterback.
I don't know what the average one is.
The average. I have the average scores in the NFL by position.
Well,
Yeah, quarterback's probably
quarterback.
highest.
The quarterback's 24.
Oh.
He was doing it. He was doing a little better.
That
but,
includes Jamarcus Russell.
and what do we know what some of the questions on the Wonderlic are?
I'm looking.
Because that would just
Okay, yeah, I got some here.
I'd do that with Brittany. Oh, wait a minute. Gina,
Yeah.
you do a Brittany, right?
I do. Let me make sure I have my right outfit on. I'm ready.
You got your peasant top on?
I have my peasant blouse. It's a crop top because I love to show the abdomen.
Well, we can ask you some of these questions, Brittany, and then maybe you can just answer them.
I am Wait, I'm sorry. Who am I talking to?
Chris Maxipata.
Okay, go ahead.
It's
Brady,
gonna.
this is the Wonderlic test here. So it's 50 multiple choice questions to be answered in 12 minutes. A score of 20 is intended to indicate average intelligence.
Okay.
But here's a question for you. If a piece of rope costs 20 cents per 2 feet, how many feet can you buy for $30?
20 cents.
Okay, that's your final
Answer.
final answer. All right.
All right. Which of the numbers in this group represents the smallest amount? 0.3, 0.08, or 0.33?
Well, I can tell you as someone who's blown a .08 that seemed to bother a lot of people. So I'll go with the 0.
All right.
All right.
A high-speed train travels 25 feet in a third of a second. In 4 seconds, the train will have traveled how many feet?
Trick question. I don't take trains.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no train to Hawaii.
Let's do one more, Brittany.
Okay.
A clock lost 2 minutes and 36 seconds in 78 days. How many seconds did it lose per day?
Can I please have the word of origin? Country of origin for the word.
No,
Thank you.
this
I
isn't a
just
spelling
watched the
thing.
spelling. Yep, I just watched Script Spelling Bee. I know what my rights are. Can you please tell me if this is an animal, vegetable, or mineral?
This isn't a spelling test. This is a math question.
Are they all weird math equations? There's got to be
I don't
some
like these.
some
I know
stuff
these are
down.
just the sample questions on this particular page, but I'll see if there are any non-math
Thank
ones.
you. That's not fair to Brittany.
No, that is not fair to Brittany. That's not fair to most people who can't do shit in their head. But do they give you a scratch pad? That's kind of the question. All right, sorry. Continue.
Anyway, so we'll see where that goes. Did you know that Bezos and Van Jones are thick as thieves? Did you hear
I
about
heard
this?
he gave him $100 million.
$100 million to Van Jones, who is not only, a CNN, not a correspondent, but, he's on.
Contributor,
yeah. Founder of Dreamcore, which is nonprofit. It's a nonprofit for criminal justice reform. And chef.
Also sounds like they make a hell of a mattress. I got the Dreamcore Sleep Easy. Oh, my God.
Feather top.
Oh, you got the Dreamcore?
Yeah. I always set mine to 80.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
said, yeah, see,
I like that.
I go with 60.
Really? Okay,
But
so
we
you
have
like a
different
little cushion.
Dreamcore
That's
settings.
right.
Yes.
And when it gets too hot, it has those water pipes inside the mattress.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Also, Chef Jose Andres, he's founder of the World Central Kitchen to direct the charities of their. Okay, so that's what he does. So they can do whatever they want with this money. He added no bureaucracy, no committee. They just do what they want. They can give it all of their own charity. They can share the wealth. It's up to them. Jones and Andres are the first two recipients of Bezos' new Courage and Civility Award, which recognizes leaders who aim high and who pursue solutions with courage and who always do it with civility.
Yeah, it's
$100 million each.
kind of interesting time. So you have to kind of buy yourself some grace now if you've got too much money and you're spending a lot of it sending yourself to outer space, then we need to point at a lot of stuff. I mean, it used to be, I'll tell you this, I wish these big contributions, I wish they were a little more shovel ready. You know, like,
what do you mean?
Because back in the day, Carnegie would have, they'd build a library, or they would build Carnegie Hall,
right?
Or they'd build a bridge and like put their name on it or something, or a school,
right.
and it's something. It's a little more brick and mortar. You know what I mean?
A wing of a university or hospital.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we gave $100 million to the ACLU or Black Lives Matter or PETA or something. Do we ever really? Are we the recipients of any of that?
No one
Do we ever
tracks that.
know where it really goes, or
Good point.
anything's get better for the groups they're working on? But you go
Pay yourself a nice little salary as a board member.
Well, I was talking about Bette Midler, like adopting a highway,
right,
the other day, and I was just sort of thinking, like, what if somebody, we've talked about a hyperloop, bullet train, monorail, or whatever. What if, like, these guys go, I will pledge to build 70 miles of this bullet thing that got us from L.A. to Chicago, and then Richard Branson would have to kick in and buy, like, and then on a lower level, someone could buy a mile or 100 feet or something like that. We'll just fund the whole thing.
I like that.
I mean, I like Van Jones, but I don't expect to be the recipient of any of that money.
I don't think you're going to see any of this. But the thing I thought you'd like about it is talk about free market. The billionaire says, you figure it out. You have a private company. You get your money. Like the government doesn't choose how you spend it. You guys figure it out. You seem smart.
Yeah. It does.
A lot of pressure for Van.
Yeah, it is. And he obviously is going to be scrutinized.
Exactly.
So he's going to have to, dot the I's and cross the T's.
Ease up on the salary you give yourself as an executive to your new business venture.
Is also, you do hear a lot of, like, and I don't know what the full story is. You work for Amazon, you have to pee in a can because you can't leave your station and stuff. At a certain point, does seem like you could kick a little down to the can peers.
It sure does. When you won't let them unionize.
I don't know. Those stories sound bizarre to me, that you work in a big facility and you can't walk away from your conveyor belt long enough to take a leak.
It'll be like Lucy with the chocolates.
How far away is the bathroom?
It sounds bizarre, but it does seem like kick everyone down another $1.50 an hour.
Yes, absolutely. Because do you remember the smear campaign? What state was it? Alabama? I don't remember. A southern state where they're trying to unionize, and this guy, I think he was a black guy, came out as sort of like the spokesman, and they smeared him. They ruined his name.
Tyler Perry.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just like they're not down. So yeah, Jeff, you could help out your employees for sure.
Ryan Fitzpatrick Wonderlic score 48.
Really? Oh, he was a Harvard guy.
He's a Harvard guy, yeah. He's a quarterback in the NFL who notably went to Harvard.
What about the cute
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah. He's the one I like. He was on Jeopardy. And I think he's with Shailene Woodley, if anybody cares. While you're doing that, history was made Tuesday night when Major League Baseball's first ever all-female broadcast crew called the MLB's Game of the Week live between the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays on YouTube. The YouTube broadcast featured Melanie Newman on play-by-play, Sarah Langs, the analyst, Alana Rizzo, on-field reporter, Heidi Watney, and Lauren Gardner hosted pregame and postgame. What do you got, Brian?
Jimmy G, 29. Yeah.
He doesn't have to be super.
He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, it's true. I think we have a clip just of what it sounded like. This may be between Melanie and Sarah, but we'll find out because I'm not sure which one is pulled here.
But there are so many more women that have been doing what we're doing in this industry for such a long time. And there's so many accomplished women that have the resumes that could absolutely do this broadcast. Very happy to be a part of it. We recognize the moment, but above all, it's baseball. And we are certainly happy to be giving this broadcast to the audience.
I think you said it best. By the end of the day, you get the first pitch, and it's a baseball game. And this is something that we've all absolutely loved getting to pursue in our careers, and recognizing that that hasn't always been the case for others. And
I did watch a lot of it, and as much as I don't know everything about baseball, it seemed very competent, which seems, condescending to say. But, one thing I did notice, and I think you heard her voice, the voices, I know my voice as long as I've been doing broadcasting.
I don't think your dad would approve, but continue.
He would. Probably.
Give him a few beers. And we had a talk.
I know that and maybe it's just getting older too, but my voice, the actual timbre of my voice has come down because when I first started doing radio, it was sort of high and Minnie Mousy, and it's not, people don't like hearing that tone for a long time. And one of the women has really gotten it down. One of the women had a bit of a higher pitched voice, and I wonder if that counted against her, or if we can just all get out of our own way and get over ourselves and get used to it.
You know how we talk about our mean grandmothers?
We do.
Second, the meanest person of my childhood, not even my grandmother.
Oh, yeah. Someone beat Grandma?
Yes. Grandpa Al Lewis from the Munsters was the meanest guy I'd ever met.
He hit you, right?
Yeah. But so did Roberta Messick, and she wasn't as mean. So it's hard to tell with me because I've been hit by multiple parents. But never my own. I'm curious if anyone else has been hit multiple times by other people's parents, but not their own. That's the caveat. But either way, I used to remember him. He used to chew Red Man chewing tobacco and spit on the floor of the house he lived in. It was a hardwood floor, but spit on the floor. And he would watch baseball games and sporting events in general, always had the sound down because he hated the announcers. Like, he was so angry that these guys don't know what they're talking about. Like, it was so...
Kids these days.
Yeah, he was so animated by how much he hated them. They would just watch them in silence.
Totally a reasonable thing to get infuriated over.
Well, a lot of people, at least my dad and a lot of people I knew, turned the sound down and turned the radio play-by-play up because you get more of a colorful picture.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the only thing this is missing. I don't, baseballs. I don't need to watch it very often and all that kind of stuff. But it is good to have one person in the booth who was in the league for 10 years because they do have some old stories or insights, or Sparky Anderson, my manager, he would have never done this or whatever. So I don't know. And also,
sorry to interrupt. That goes across all sports. Like Tony Romo's great in football. I like watching the basketball playoffs when there's somebody who's like, "Oh, this is what happens," or "This is what the ref is thinking," or how you played.
Yeah, but baseball seems kind of integratable with women. I'm surprised.
I would say so.
I mean, basketball's kind of tough. Football's very tough. But it seemed like. And there's been a woman or two that has been around Major League Baseball. Not on a team. I don't think she made the roster, but this story would come up every 5 years that somebody was trying to make the team or something.
Are there any women's baseball leagues? Because you hear about fast-pitch softball.
Yeah, I don't. There are hardball leagues. I looked into it.
Oh, really? Manjo bit?
Well, no. I recently looked.
Out of the house.
I recently looked into it because I was obsessed with the fact that softball. I'm obsessed with the fact that female softball, college and pro and everything teams don't wear fucking baseball hats. They wear visors. And it drives me nuts because they wear the pants, they wear the shirt, they wear the spikes, they do everything, but they wear visors. And I'm like, are you an accountant from the 30s? Are you dealing cards in Reno? Like, put a baseball hat on. It's the easiest thing in the world. And if you don't believe, you go, what about the hair? What about the hair? Ponytail.
Who gives a shit? Yeah, low ponytail.
Or you could wear it like the greatest living American, Tony Little. Tony Little, technique.
Riding the gazelle.
Yeah.
Riding a gazelle.
Yep.
That guy went 2 million miles on a gazelle with the ponytail through the hole in the back of the hat.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it can't be done.
You're right. And now for girls, they have high holes in the hat so you can have a cute ponytail.
I don't know if this counts, but I may have pre-shit on one of your points because I was literally saying to a friend the other day, like, how much material could we have saved if just baseball in 1901 had adopted the visor instead of the full cap? Not that they should have, but if they did, that'd have been untold millions of pounds of cotton saved.
You know how much felt or whatever?
Yes, or whatever, because everyone wears a ball cap.
Untold millions.
And
what if we didn't have drapery? Could you imagine? We would have won Vietnam.
The visor is as functional as the hat as it pertains to baseball. If they had just adopted the visor in 1900, God knows how much how different our styles would be. You wouldn't be wearing that hat.
That's right. Untold amounts of fabric would be saved.
Right
Who
over
knows
the
where this
dome.
country
So much
could be
mesh
right
saved.
now? What dreams
Well said,
realized?
Ryan.
The heights,
trucker visors.
The heights we could have soared to
We don't
as a
in
nation,
space.
but we'll never know.
No.
Brian is right.
Purely hypothetical.
But my thing is baseball is not about bunch of upper body strength.
No.
It's a kind of coordination thing, and
You need fast.
It seems like
teamwork.
Seems like some woman could break through at some point. Be kind of fun.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of a woman breaking through, Dolly Parton made good on a promise to get back in a Playboy bunny outfit when she turned 75. And boy, howdy did she.
I will say this. I don't like the time that baseball players waste when they step out of the box and reattach the Velcro on their batting gloves. Untold what we could have done as a society.
That's
but
OCD.
I will say this. There's a lot, it can be slow. The pitcher walks, the catcher's talking to the pitcher now. Oh, here comes the manager. He's coming out. They got their hands in front of their mouth.
Throws
They're
over
talking.
first base again.
Right. There's a lot of that. There's one thing they do with amazing accuracy and speed and fluidity. They're all going up to home plate now with the shin guard and the foul ball thing and stuff like that. When they are walking to first base, they get the walk or whatever, pop, boom. I mean, it is less than a second. Those shin guards they just lean down and it's like pull a ripcord and all the stuff just falls off and they go walk. Although
it's kind of Magic Mike-esque.
Yeah, my thing.
We get it. You love male strippers.
Now they're putting oven mittens on guys' hands sort of out there. Have you seen the mitten?
No.
Oh, you've not seen the mitten?
On the hitter?
No, when they get to first base, they're putting like some sliding mitten or something on.
There's been a lot, because, Gina, a lot of guys would slide head first, but they would like hurt their finger, break their finger sometimes.
Too bad.
Yeah,
I agree. Don't slide head first.
My thing is, I don't know if you guys are with me, but whatever you show up to home plate with, you show up to home plate with. If you want to do a shin guard and an elbow thing and a whatever, fine.
You got to run the bases.
We take your walk. That's what you bring to first base. And when you get to first base, we're not allowed to hand you a bunch of auxiliary shit to
props,
gear up so you can run the pads.
Don't they also, when they get to first base, they get rid of the batter's helmet?
No.
Like they don't run the whole.
No,
every base they run with that?
Yes.
I did not realize
You're
that.
not allowed to take that off.
Interesting.
Do they? Now I'm confused.
You can't just pop it off while you're running?
I'm confused by this.
No, they wear their helmets.
The whole way around?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, unless you do the move where some guys do, where after they get the double, the hand comes flying
Manny
up.
Ramirez knocks his own helmet off.
Right.
That happens.
Okay.
Some guys with dreadlocks.
Let's talk about something that we care about, please. Dolly turning 75 in a Playboy bunny outfit. The only problem with this is the magazine no longer is being published like it used to, so doesn't matter. She did it anyway. She put on the bunny suit for her husband's 79th birthday, showed it off in a video. Here's a clip.
Anyway, what I did for his birthday, I did a little photo shoot in this little outfit, and I had a cover made of the new Dolly, or the old new Dolly. And in the first one, see, remember this? I was kind of a little butterball in that one. Well, I'm string cheese now. But he'll probably think I'm cream cheese, I hope. Anyway, I'm going to surprise him, going in singing to him in my little bunny suit.
Yeah, maybe all the cheese references before sex should just be removed. Because
She's big north of the border.
I don't know if there's a kind of a cheese that a woman could be that I would prefer. Like, I'm a Gouda man.
Yeah.
I'm a Gouda pussy. I like
Smoked Gouda.
I like Havarti Snatch. That's what I'm
Halloumi.
into. Mm-hmm.
But did you notice?
Did you notice that when I was in North Carolina, I believe somebody said to me that Duke University, which is, I don't know, down the road 10 minutes, is have a room called the Dolly Parton room, and that's where she got her first set of implants. So I was thinking of you immediately.
Thank you. That's where I'm going to get my implants.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did you notice those sleeves on her? She put on these gloves, and the gloves went almost up to her shoulder. Now, I don't want to tell tales, but the rumor is that she's
Track
sleeved.
marks.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That she has a lot of tattoos.
Really?
And she never shows them. That is a rumor, cannot be confirmed. Unknowable. I've looked into it.
Oh.
But that's
Untold
why
millions of hours have been dedicated to
that's why
speculating.
she never shows her arms. I don't know. That's the rumor.
All right.
Do you have
Let's
time for
do
one more?
yeah.
All right. Well, we talk about MTV a lot and what they used to be and what they're bringing back, and they're bringing back Cribs. The network announced the revival more than 20 years since it's debuted, 10 years since it last aired on MTV. The show gives fans the full tour of celebrity homes. It's going to be back August 11th, and the 20th season will feature Ashley Simpson, Evan Ross, Big Sean, Christian Siriano, Johnny Ware, JoJo Siwa, Jordan Woods, Kathy Griffin, Martha Stewart, Nicole Snooki Polizzi, Ryan Lochte, and Scott Disick.
Oh.
You know, the big one, the big
character.
stars.
Fun collection.
Martha Stewart is knocking on the door of 80.
Easily.
Yeah, I remember she's 79 or something.
79, yeah.
Do we need super hip and with it, Martha Stewart? Like every 10, like I'm hanging with my new BFF Snoop Dogg, and we're making Jello molds with weed. And it's like, just be old and rich, would you please?
Prison gave her a lot of street cred.
She's always feel like she's going after that demo or something, and it's like, yeah, you had a good life, you got a ton of money, you got your crowd, you got your demo. Just hang out there a little bit.
Be happy with what you have. Don't get greedy.
Turns 80 in less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's
Look at you.
Pretty good on knocking on the door of 80. All right, so that,
Yeah. And it's funny that they're even doing it, and maybe this is why they're getting the people they're getting, because we're not really in a place where we want to see rich people and what they do and what we don't have.
Do you guys remember cribs? Like once in a while, there'd be like sad cribs. There'd be like skateboarder you never heard of.
Yes.
It's like, welcome to my
apartment.
Me and my partner's place in Reseda, and it's like we took the garage and we made it into a studio, and there's like foam hanging from the ceiling, and then this is my bed, and I like literally 1,800 feet in Reseda.
There was a funny one, which it had to be a joke. The Sean William Scott one was that. It was just the shittiest apartment.
And then also, okay, new rules for cribs. If you're like mini Bow Wow and you're 13, I don't want to see your Lamborghini in the garage.
Yeah.
I don't want to see cars you cannot drive for 3 years. There was a lot of that, too.
So
and
much.
There's nothing that leads me to believe that is your Lamborghini in that garage. Somebody who has a driver's license drove it over that day.
Yes. And you know what else I doubt will ever come back, or at least not in this climate? My Super Sweet 16. People aren't trying to see that right now.
Also, no mussing with your refrigerator. I want to open up and see all the Pellegrino with the labels facing out and everything's alphabetized. I want to see what your fridge looks the fuck like. We all have a fridge. It is a window into our soul. We'll know exactly where you are. I don't want to see everything alphabetized with the labels facing out.
I want stale bread.
Old leftovers.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
I love to show the abdomen.
Gina
That was the news with Gina Grad.
All right, there is J.B. Weld. J.B. Weld, world's strongest bond. Pros have trusted it for over 50 years, but DIYers have as well. But why not act like a pro even if you're a DIYer? Use your J.B. Weld. We're proud to have J.B. Weld Epoxy Adhesive as a sponsor. I personally know the owner. These guys are good people. I hung out with them in SEMA in Vegas a few years ago, and I use their products. So, and they have a variety of different stuff. So you can use it on wood or metal or glass or plastics or whatever, ceramics, whatever you need. I fixed Sonny's shoe with JB Weld. I fixed Natalia's weird cold roller thing. Gina probably knows what those things are called.
Cold roller?
It's a stone.
Oh, the jade roller.
With a stone handle.
Yeah.
And you like put it in the freezer.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay. Well, her handle broke.
Oh, no.
But I busted out the JB Weld, yo.
Good.
And I didn't have to buy her a new one. JB Weld also acquired Herculiner, the original DIY truck bed liner. So if you're looking for the world's strongest truck bed liner, Herculiner has you covered. It's JB Weld, right, Dawson?
JB Weld is available at jbweld.com, Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Advance Auto Parts, Napa, O'Reilly, Amazon, Michaels, and more. And remember, JB Weld epoxy products are proudly made in the USA. JB Weld, world's strongest bond.
All right, my old friend, Pop Warner football friend, Erik Kramer, of course, played a few years in the league. Yes.
May have predated him, or other way around, but to ask him his Wonderlic test score.
Yeah, I'm curious if they had the Wonderlic back in the day. I feel like it's been around for a little while. Yeah. We'll talk to NFL great Erik Kramer right after this.
And now, a totally innocuous word that sounds dirty when Mike Dawson says it.
Load.
Ew. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, a reunion with my old Pop Warner football buddy, Erik Kramer, who you guys know have gone through the NFL. I think 13 years in the NFL, played for many teams, won many games. Tragedy struck his life. His son OD'd back in 2011, and depression set in, an attempt at suicide, a legitimate suicide attempt. Not that some are different than others, but this was a real attempt. We chronicled it. We talked about the article the other day. So welcome.
Thank you.
Crazy journey. I'm glad you were able to come in.
True enough. Yes. Glad to be here.
We pulled up an old East Valley Trojans Pop Warner team picture from back in the day, and 1973 Gremlins, and I'm looking at undersized Erik Kramer in the bottom left of the photograph with the blonde hair.
Right.
Number 14. I'm number 70 in the middle, and we have all the old coaches. Although I don't see your dad in that picture.
No, he didn't coach on that team. He coached the year before when it was the Tro Babes, little 8-year-old team, which I was 7. I was kind of pushing the envelope on being legal there.
I think I was 7 as well. I think we can do the math.
Team of Renegades.
1972 would have been your first year, right?
Well, I don't know based on years, but I was born in 64.
I was born in 64 too, and then this is 73. That's the second year. So the first year must have been 72.
Correct.
So we're just kids. I mean, little kids. And I...
Like my hairdo is bigger than me in that picture.
I just saw a flyer on a telephone pole saying East Valley Trojans. The telephone pole across the street from my house. I just pulled it off and was like, I gotta call these guys.
I love it.
But your dad was the...
Had you not, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
I know. I
so
learned
cool.
everything from that telephone pole. So your dad, who I've always appreciated your dad because he was he almost seemed a little country to me back then, but my family was not that at all. But I could never really figure out your dad's origins other than, and I tell the story all the time, he told me he was tickled pink that I came back the next year after sitting on the bench in 72.
Yeah, very cool.
So you grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
Started out over on Whitsett and Riverside, not too far from Studio City Park.
Right. So I grew up on Colfax and Whitsett or that area, basically, Riverside, Colfax, that area. So we come from the same area. Your dad, was he a jock in high school? What was his football connection?
None. He was a tennis player. Mm-hmm. And he actually, and he went to Van Nuys High School. So back when, I think... He threw some names around like Robert Redford and Stacy Keach and Don Drysdale and another name or two. I don't know if they were all in the same class, but they were at the school at the same time. But he actually grew up in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. And then he came out to live with his dad back later.
Well, maybe the sort of Tulsa connection was that weird sort of country vibe.
Could have been.
I got from him.
Could have been. He was a country music fan, so maybe that's what you were picking up on.
Maybe Merle he was
Haggard,
wearing like
Waylon Jennings.
Yeah, maybe he was wearing cowboy boots or something.
Could have been.
That was very exotic to me, just growing up in North Hollywood, not knowing anybody that even owned a pair of boots. For instance.
I don't think he did either, but he did love country music.
Well, there's some. It's an interesting exercise because I basically knew your dad for 1 year because he didn't go on and coach the next year. And I don't know, he went and coached somewhere else or a different division. Or you can tell me if you can remember. But
that's going back a ways.
But here's an interesting thought experiment.
Okay, I'm on board.
I met your dad a handful of times. I mean, I was 7 or 7.5 or 8 or whatever. He was the coach. He didn't coach me after that. And I somehow gleaned that he had a country vibe, even though he wasn't wearing cowboy boots and whatever. But somehow in my 7 or 8-year-old brain, my memory was Erik Kramer's dad was a little bit country.
Yeah, well, and you're a little bit rock and roll. So there you go.
It's a Donnie Marie reference. So you play the first year with him. Now, it was my recollection that you played quarterback.
I can't remember, actually, the first year on that little Trojan team, the Trobabe team, the 8-year-old team. But on Gremlin, I played tight end. Mm-hmm. When the quarterback, I think, was Scott Whitman.
Right.
Blonde-haired.
Yep. It was a
number
friend of mine.
22 or something like that.
Playing in high school with him.
Okay.
And I think I find interesting about your story is you didn't play quarterback in Pop Warner, and then you didn't start at quarterback in high school, but you had
I played
13 years in the pros?
Something like that. I did play later in Pop Warner. So like when the Dolphins were formed, Valley Dolphins were formed, that was a break off from the East Valley Trojans. And then we used to practice over at Van Nuys Park, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so that was like Mighty Mites on up. So I think I only played a year or two with East Valley, but then after that was the Trojans. So Dolphins.
The Valley Dolphins were like a new franchise in Pop Warner football, and they had cool-looking uniforms,
right,
and they had cool face masks. We had the old plastic crappy ones with the bar that went down the middle that you could unscrew.
Like that you could buy at like Vaughn's, right? The Hutch.
We had, our face mask was basically so old school. If you look at pictures of O.J. Simpson in college, that was kind of our face mask. But the Valley Dolphins had a cool uniform and cool face mask and like newer equipment because they were new. And I remember a few guys went over to the Valley Dolphins, the Boyd brothers.
Correct. Yep.
Henry and James Boyd.
Yep.
Who I was friends with and used to hang out with a lot.
Me too. And they lived over in Pacoima. And there was Mike Phillips was on that team, and Kirk Huff, and eventually Joe Kelly was Kirk Huff's cousin. Came out to, I forget where he started out, but then he ended up playing on that Valley Dolphin team. Joe played a little bit for the Bengals, and
so there's some pros that started off there.
Yeah, there could have been a lot more too, and then I got derailed a little bit.
So we played East Valley Trojans. I stayed with the East Valley Trojans. You went off with the Valley Dolphins, and then at some point I ended up with the Sun Valley Falcons.
Okay.
And we had this coach. We had a couple of coaches. We had Paul Napier.
Right. That was a Gremlin coach.
Paul Napier was a little bit older than most of the coaches, but as I recall, he was an actor.
He was an actor. He did some commercials. I don't know how many TV shows he was in, but I remember seeing him in some commercials.
And I said to Kaylin before the show, I was like, I remember that guy was an actor, and back then we had no real context for anything. But I said, pull up Paul Napier's IMDb and see what that guy. Now I don't remember him having a kid on the team or anything.
He did.
Oh, he did.
No, I'm sorry. He didn't have a kid on that team, but he had 3 that were all good players, baseball players, in fact.
Oh, really?
And I think his one of his sons, Scott, actually was a good football player. I think he played at Grant or something.
At Grant High School. He was on Kojak. He was on Heart to Heart, Little House on the Prairie, Dynasty. I'm skipping over some of the stuff people haven't heard of. Days of Our Lives, the soap opera. Robert Kennedy, let's see, Getting Even, Knots Landing, Falcon Crest, Santa Barbara, L.A. Law. I mean, this guy just worked as an actor.
I didn't know it was that much. You got quite a list there. I remember he was missing a tip of his finger. One of his fingers was, he was Ronnie Lott before Ronnie Lott.
All I remember is he did over 400 commercials as well. Like, he was just a journeyman actor. He was a serious guy. Good enough guy, never really took the whistle out of his mouth. So when he was speaking, he still had the whistle in there. So you could kind of hear the whistle going as he was just sort of talking to you.
And a great observer of people, you would notice that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you'd miss that one, but somehow knowing your dad was a little bit country and Paul Napier never kicked the whistle out of his mouth is something I learned. And we had Duke Gallagher, who was a great guy. Son was on the team.
Danny Gallagher, right?
Danny was the son. And those were very formative years. That was really important. And you remember, and this is something we got to get into. So I played 7 years of Pop Warner, so you must have played 7.
Yeah.
Well, because you started
at 7 and whenever high school. You know what? Back then, most public schools started high school at 10th grade. And I went to, my first high school I went to was no longer in existence, called Valley Christian. And they played 8-man football. And I went there for a semester. And that semester I played youth football still in 9th grade.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the same with me. My high school was 10, 11, 12. So I played all the way through. And I played 7 years. And in 7 years, 2 championship games we went to.
Yep. One of them was that 9-year-old team.
Lost both.
Yep.
Now the Gremlins, there's a there's a famous picture of me looking super sad on a sideline. That's from that game. But my memory was that Gremlin team when we were 8 or 9 years old was undefeated, dominated everyone, and then played a game for the championship at the very end and lost.
Right. And I think, if I remember right, I think it was against North Valley. I don't know where the game was played. But back then, there was something called the California Tiebreaker. You remember that? Mm-hmm. So I think you got the ball on like the 50-yard line, and you had 4 plays, and however far you got is what you got.
Right.
And then the other team got 4 plays, and however they got,
right.
what they got. And they scored. They I don't know if they scored, but they got farther than we did. So they won.
And I remember thinking, this is inconceivable. Like, I didn't even think we could lose because my recollection was we won every game and we won pretty handily. And so there's just no possible way. It was a little bit cold and a little rainy, and we went somewhere, and there wasn't much pomp and circumstance to it. And then we lost, and I was like, man, my childhood is ruined.
Ready to quit right there.
Then my last year, we played one more game, beat the North Valley Bears, then went to the championship against the Chatsworth Chiefs, and got destroyed by the Chiefs, who we beat earlier in the season. So that was 0 for 2. Did you ever? That's a picture of me looking sad at that game. Did you ever win a championship in Pee Wee?
Sure.
Oh, you did?
With the Dolphins, yeah.
Oh, shit. I should have went with you.
Well, yeah.
Why? What year was that?
Well, it was like 3 years in a row.
What?
Yeah, we didn't lose a game.
God damn it.
That was all the Boyd brothers and actually James. Because I think Henry was older. So James on that team, and we had a kid named Maurice Taylor, those 2 good running backs. And then there was a guy named John Schultz. I think he'd played a few years in the NFL like as an offensive lineman for the Vikings or whoever. So he coached the offensive line. A kid named Chris Butler was a really good player. I think Chris is probably as tall as his desk right now, but back then he was big. Mm-hmm. You know, that works with like at the kid
level. You guys
level.
won 3 years in a row?
Yeah.
Did you play quarterback on any of those teams?
Yeah, on those teams I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was always trying to figure out.
But I didn't look much different than I did with, I probably didn't grow a bit from that little gremlin team. I was probably about 45 pounds.
Where did the thoughts about playing professional football start creeping into your head?
Well, I don't know. You remember when... So they would make like the little put to music highlight videos of say Walter Payton or whatever.
Right.
And so I remember in the house like fake diving over the couch like I was catching a touchdown pass or something. But as far as like thinking I would ever go there one day, I don't think I had that. Certainly not after high school.
Well, you played. Did you start at quarterback in high school?
Well, it depends on how you and when I was in 10th grade, I played JV. And so this is at St. Genevieve over in Panorama City. And so I played like 3 games, but that 3rd game we played Notre Dame. And I separated my shoulder or broke my collarbone or something, so I was out for the year. The 2nd year I was a backup at St. Genevieve. Didn't really, I think I played, I remember one game I played in that I threw what should have been an interception, went through the safety's hands and became a touchdown. And the head coach was like, we told you not to throw that ball all week long. I was like, well, what's wrong? It was a touchdown.
Right.
But then the next year I went to Burroughs in Burbank, and there was a kid there that Richard Strasser, who was a good player, and he had grown up in Burbank, and he was a senior also. And so we split games for a couple games, like 4 games. And then I think we were 2-2 at that point. And then he took over. We didn't lose again. And we kind of like in youth football, we went to the championship game and we played, I think it was Antelope Valley that beat us. So I played safety. And that's pretty much why we got there.
A weird path to get to NFL quarterback for so many years. So when you graduated high school, it seems like a lot of guys would stop playing at that point.
You would think. The writing's pretty much on the wall.
Well, most of the guys are the stars of the Pop Warner football team and the stars of their high school team, and they never get to the pros. So this is an interesting route you took. But then you went off to play at Pierce, the junior college?
Yeah. So by that time, like when I was 9 years old, we moved out to Canoga Park. So we were close. Like the 2 main cross streets I was near was Sherman Way and Mason. So Pierce was you could drive down Mason and drive right into the campus. So it was about maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles away. So I went there, and the first year they had a quarterback that had already just played his freshman year. It was pretty good, Kevin Jan. He went to Granada. So, and then they had somebody backing him up. So by the time I got there, it didn't make sense for me to waste a year. So back then, I don't know if they still have it now, but they called it gray shirt year. So you would go part-time, not declare any. Yeah, your first full-time year is when your eligibility clock starts. So I would go part-time. In fact, back then I sold Valley Cable Television. This is 1982. So ESPN had just come on. You know, they were broadcasting like the Dog Kennel Show or something. And, And what was it? The USFL was right around the corner. So and then the next year, I came back and was a backup. And then the third year there, I got to play.
And did you have a great year as a starter at the junior college?
Yeah, we were pretty good. We were, for the most part, we were ranked number one in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, what people don't realize is there's so many really good players in this San Fernando Valley because there's so many high schools, and they all have a bunch of good athletes. And then a lot of them don't have the grades or the money or the whatever, so they go to the junior college and they play for a couple of years, and then they transfer to a college, you know, UCLA or wherever. But what you don't really realize, what I realized when I got to Valley College, which would play Pierce.
That's Pierce rivalry.
Pierce, the rival, the Monarchs, it's, you know, 10 miles away from Pierce. I was like, how fucking good are these guys at the junior college level? Because I had recruitment letters to play at marginally small or medium-sized colleges that weren't really football colleges, but they're just little colleges. And I thought, well, I'll just go slum it at junior college for a couple of years, and then I'll play. I'll be better than these guys, and then I'll transfer somewhere. But I didn't realize how good and how many athletes and how many people there were on that team. Like we had like 80 or 90 guys going out for the team. Some of these guys were specimens. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna suck. I ended up cleaning carpet and dropping out. But
that's a good career move.
It was
Look where you are now.
Yeah, I should have gone right to podcasting. So, but there was a lot of competition and like a lot of good athletes at the junior. I always say this, and I always try to figure it out. I'm looking at you, Chris, but I think, if you don't believe me, Santa Monica Junior College is 10 miles away from Pierce, and LA Valley College is 8 or 10 miles away from Pierce, and there's a bunch of junior colleges. At some point at Santa Monica Junior College, Steve Smith, who's definitely a Hall of Famer, and Chad Ochocinco, I think, were both playing wide out for the Santa Monica Junior College team.
The Corsairs, right.
So that's how much talent there was. There must...
Yeah, I think Keyshawn Johnson started out at one of the, like a West LA. In fact, Warren Moon went to West LA.
Right, so there was good talent. So you started. The team was the best in the state. Or nationally, I can't remember.
Well, we were ranked number one in the country. You know how that goes. So I mean, you don't play anybody outside of your state. But then we ran into a buzzsaw in the last game. We played Taft. So it's a small little town up in Bakersfield. And to get back to your point about so they were like what back then, and they still have them today. They were a destination junior college. So these guys that would go to 4-year schools and then not make grades or whatever, they'd all end up at Taft. So they didn't look like the same guys that we had getting off the bus. And they were pretty good. And so we lost. I threw 4 interceptions in that game. We lost like 51-27. But, yeah, we hung in there with them fairly good. But they were pretty good. They were really good.
All right, so you throw 4 picks in the championship game. That's the end of your junior college career. So then how do you make it to the pros after throwing 4 picks at the end of your junior college career?
Yeah, you would think that would stick with you, but apparently everyone else forgot about that except me. And then I got recruited by a few schools and ended up going to North Carolina State. And then they also recruited 2 other junior college quarterbacks, both from California. And it just seemed to work out. And then my first year, they had, prior to me going there, they were 3-8 each of those 2 years. The first year I was there, we also went 3-8, and we kind of skinned by on the 3 wins. Mm-hmm. And then they went out and got the coach that absolutely destroyed us at Furman, 1AA school. Mm-hmm. He annihilated us. So they went and got him. And then then the next year, my senior year, we were pretty good.
And were you starting as quarterback?
Yeah, both those years.
And then how do the pros? I know there's some Canadian football that factors in.
Yeah, well, so I didn't get drafted. So back then there was 12 rounds. And I signed as a free agent with the Saints. And they had Bobby Hebert and Dave Wilson and another free agent quarterback like me coming in the same year from Tulane. But that team was loaded on defense. But it didn't matter who they had quarterback-wise. I wasn't making that team. And then so I went back to school. I got cut probably after the 3rd or so preseason game. Never played in a preseason game. And was back in school finishing up my degree and then helping coach whatever I was doing there for a few weeks. And then the NFL strike happened in 1987. So I think they played a game or 2, and then the players went on strike. And then a few teams had called me, one of which was the Falcons. So I played for them for those 3 games.
During the strike season?
During the strike, which was only 3 games, yeah.
Right. Oh, so you were a scab.
I was a scab, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
how'd it go playing for the Falcons for those 3 games?
Well, we lost to it was fine. So the other quarterback at that time was a guy named Jeff Van Rapport, who went to Arizona State. I think they'd won the Rose Bowl, that senior year of his. And so he and I were the 2 quarterbacks, and we played the Steelers and lost. We played the 49ers, and then about half of their team had crossed, including Montana and Dwight Clark and some of the defensive players. And we almost beat them. And
yeah, so playing a team that had a lot of the regular players and Hall of Famers.
Yeah, we had 2 guys, in fact, 2 linebackers. One guy was someone you probably never heard of, Joe, I can't remember his last name. But then Tim Green, remember that name? Mm-hmm. So went to Syracuse and he was a good player for the Falcons for a long time, but then he became a broadcaster and then obviously wrote a lot of books. Mm-hmm. And I think now, though, he's got ALS.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saw a 60 Minutes piece on him a few years ago. But so those are the only 2 guys we had that crossed with the Falcons. And then we played the Rams, the third scab season game. Yep. Right. And then we actually beat them. And they had quite a few.
Did you play in that game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, God, that's surreal. There must be, was on TV and everything, right?
Yeah. In fact, that game back, I think who broadcasted, the 2 broadcasters on that, I'm not sure who the play-by-play guy is. I want to say Vern Lundquist, but the other guy was Terry Bradshaw.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we beat the Rams, and we played pretty well. And then they kept me after that. The Falcons did. Mm-hmm. And so...
How were the other team, when the players crossed back over after the strike was over, how'd they treat the scabs?
There was only 1 scab, so that was me.
Oh, just 1?
Yeah. And it was a little frosty. Because Mike Ken played left tackle, and he was they have an executive director of the players union, but then they also have a player that's the president of the players in the players union, and that guy was Mike Ken for the Falcons.
So you got the one guy who's the president of the players union, essentially, who's on your team, and also you're the one scab that's left.
So other than Tim Green, it was a little frosty for me in that locker room.
Oh, right.
But Tony Casillas was on that team, and Gerald Riggs was. I mean, they had some good talent, but they when I they lost big every game. So like the better schools back then would have been like university college football teams would have been like Miami or Oklahoma. We'd have had a hard time beating them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You really think that the professional team, the Atlanta Falcons in '87, would have a hard time beating Miami?
Yeah, because I think we only won 3 games, and one of them was a scab game.
Mm-hmm.
And like confidence plays such a big part in it. And so I don't think there was much of that going on that team.
How much of it is coaching? I mean, you were talking about North Carolina, I think, and you got the coach in, and you got the right coach in. How much of that at the pro level was about the coaching?
Well, I think it's pretty much every level. So at junior college, Jim Fenwick was the head coach, and he was great. And then it just so happened that a coach he played for with the Northridge Knights named Don Markham was an assistant coach. Well, Don Markham went on to become like a coaching high school legend out in Inland Empire. Mm-hmm. So he coached at a few schools, like where he came from before he went to Pierce was Colton High School. And they had won a championship or 2 while he was there. So this little offense he brought in was an unbelievable running game. So that's part of what made us as good as we were. And then Dick Sheridan, like I said, at NC State was a whole different animal than anyone I've ever been around. Just the way, what we did, not only X's and O's and technique-wise, but the way the culture he created was amazing. And then in the pros, like the staff that was in Atlanta, it was Marion Campbell was the head coach, but Jim Hannafin was a line coach and Rod Dowhauer. Both those guys went on to win a couple Super Bowls. At least Hannafin did. Both with the Redskins and with, I think, the Rams. Dowhauer was with the Redskins the year they won it with in '91. So, and I think what was I going to say? In pro football, yeah, I think it does make a big difference. But I never really played for what I would consider. I'm trying to go through my head here. As a head coach, I didn't really play for one that stood out like that. The closest I would say was the offensive coordinator, a couple of them with the Bears, was Ron Turner, who was Norv Turner's brother. And then we ran the West Coast passing game, so that was my introduction to that. And then Matt Cavanaugh, he left to become the head coach after a couple years at Illinois. And then Matt Cavanaugh, who had played for Bill Walsh and was Montana's backup for a few years. But I think he also went on to play for the Giants and Parcells. But anyway, so he was good also. But as far as I never got to play for one as a head coach that was like eye-popping.
Right. I mean, the names go on and on. I won't bore everyone with them. But like if you get lucky enough to get hooked up with Bill Belichick or somebody like that,
right,
then it's a career changer. I would say it's definitely a career changer for a quarterback if you get Bill Walsh or someone like that, because I don't know, and I'm not saying this out of disrespect, but I don't know who Joe Montana would be without a Bill Walsh or he went from Walsh to, he went to the next one.
Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, the point is what if he just got stuck in Atlanta and had Joe Blow coaching him? Would we even know who he was? All right, we'll continue in a second. First, let me just tell you about Keeps. There are only 2 FDA-approved medications to prevent hair loss. Keeps offers both. That's right. You want to keep your hair. If it's going, you want to catch it before it leaves. Keeps is a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. Convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months in discreet packaging. Low cost. Treatments start at just $10 per month. Proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than its competitors. And you can check it out, the before and after photos, if you'd like as well. Prevention is the key. Treatment can take 4 to 6 months to see results. So act fast. It's Keeps. Right, Dawson?
If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Adam to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS.com/Adam to get your first month free. KEEPS.com/Adam.
Well, NFL great and childhood teammate Erik Kramer is in studio, but again, his journey has just begun, and we'll get to Chapter 2 right after this.
All right, and down, I'm putting up another note here. Dawson has a show in Austin.
Oh, okay. All right. Back. There we go. Back with Erik Kramer. I'm glad to sort out all this when we played and your dad. And I know your dad passed away. When did your dad pass away?
In September of 2015.
Yeah, it's kind of why you got to get out there and volunteer or coach or mentor or do whatever, because you have no idea. I can see your dad clearly in my mind's eye. I can see, probably a 38-year-old version of him in my mind's eye, like very, very clearly. I can remember, things that he said to me. I'm sure he probably has no recollection of it or had no recollection of it, but it was, and we didn't, we didn't hang out much, but he made an impact in my life.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because that's I can appreciate that, because I think he had a passion for coaching kids, and he loved it. I mean, he would like at home he would draw up plays, and he taught me how to play chess early on, and he just had a thing for, kind of pulling a group of kids together and trying to get them to play together, and he had a lot of fun with that.
I have a recollection of something that would seem bizarre by today's coaching standards, but the thing is the thing about the Pop Warner coach is that I recall that was different, somewhat different than later on in high school, a little bit in colleges. You just have all these different dudes show up. They're all very different. They're all dads, and well, it was Paul Napier. I couldn't figure out where everyone came from, but there was a guy named Jance Fitzgerald.
Right.
And his dad was Mr. Fitzgerald, because that's all.
Daryl.
His name is Daryl.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald. He's a big, burly, bearded, man,
Right.
And I remember, and I think it was from the second year, could have been from the first year, but you probably recall this. At some point, and this sounds pretty unthinkable by today's woke standards and everything, he just brought a barbell. And he just brought this barbell and a bunch of weights, and he just set it down on the grass at the park we were practicing at. And he was like, I want to see who the strongest kid on this team is. And so it's he took this barbell and they put a couple of 10-pounders on each side, and people lined up, try to get it over your head, and he's like, people would struggle a little. I was the strongest kid on the team.
Attaboy.
And I think that's probably what got me my starting spot from that point on, because we couldn't tell who was skilled or who had technique, or no one had technique or skill or anything. But Fitzgerald brought those old cement weights with the plastic around the outside of them, and he just kept piling it on until kids couldn't lift anymore. And somehow I was the last man standing, and I think he was like, all right, you play.
All right.
You can play.
That's right. That's what you want to get down to the bottom of. Who can do it?
So you have this amazing NFL career, 13 years, right?
Well, professionally, two of those 13 were in Canada. So after that strike year, they kept me, and I remember walking out of Marion Campbell's office, because like everybody, you get called up, bring your playbook, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to turn it in like everyone else. And that's when not only he was up there, but a couple other coaches like Rod Dowhauer, and they said, no, you're going to stay. So I remember walking out. So they had there was a hotel that was across the parking lot that the Falcons also owned, and that's where we stayed as replacement players. And I remember walking across the parking lot, and by now the regular players started trickling in. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking past Gerald Riggs' Porsche to my yellow 1970 VW Bug with the rusted out floorboard, thinking, okay, this is pretty cool.
Right.
So, yeah, that was 1 year. But then I came back the following training camp and got cut again. And then no other NFL team called. I waited around for a few weeks and then went up and played in Canada. And they only had about, I think, 6 games left. So got there and played in all of them. I played the second half of the first game. And, they play a different schedule up there. So it's like Saturday was the first game we played. And it was against Toronto. So, but then I think we won that game. And somewhere along the way, within those first 5 or 6 games, we played a game. I think it was against Saskatchewan, but it was at home. And I topped the 4 interception game in junior college with a 6 interception game.
6 INTs.
So you'd have figured, after 3 or 4, the next guy would be warming up, but no.
Right.
So went through that, and then played that year. We weren't very good at all, and I wasn't very good either. And then the second year, we had an inter-squad game where I blew out a posterior cruciate ligament in my left knee on like the second or third play, done for the year. And so that was my Canadian football experience.
How then did you get back to the NFL?
Well, back then I was married, and we were in the middle unit of a triplex over on Overland Boulevard in Culver City. And I called all the teams. Back then there was 28, and I think I called all of them. And the Lions were the only one I had a conversation with. And next thing I knew, I was on a plane flying out for a tryout, and somehow it worked.
And then from the Lions to the Bears?
Yeah. So started out the 1990 season was Detroit. That was the first year I was there, and I didn't play. I made the team, but didn't play. And that year they drafted Andre Ware with their first pick, the number 7 pick overall. And so I just, it was those 3 suiting up every week, and I was just like in the stands. And then the next year, Bob Galliano left. I think they released him, so now there's only 3. And at some point early on in the year, I became the backup. And then Rodney, we played.
Rodney Peete,
right? He got hurt on a play against Indianapolis, pre Peyton Manning, and it was in Indianapolis, and so he got hurt. We punted. Indianapolis fumbled the punt on about the 20-yard line. We took over, and I guess Rodney was so hurt, so I went out there. And then the third, so, there was a good little running back on that team. I don't know if you heard of him, Barry Sanders.
I'll look him up after the show. I don't
okay.
want to waste your time.
Right, thank you. So it was like hand off to Barry. It was like 3rd and 1. And then Willie Green was a receiver. He was a rookie from Ole Miss. And but he and I had worked out, like on the field a bunch together throwing. And we had a little signal for a fade stop versus a press coverage. And so I hit Willie on that for a touchdown. And so thank God he caught it, because I probably would have been buying my own plane ticket home had he not. And so that was my first little series in the NFL that was non-strike related. And then later on that year, we played Dallas probably midway through the season, and that's when Rodney hurt himself pretty good with a torn, I think it was Achilles. And so, oops. And then, so I played the rest of that game, and we beat them. And then I think we lost a couple with me at first as a starter, but then we went on and I think we went like 12-4, went to the NFC Championship game, and had a pretty good year.
So you play in the league, you make some money, you have some success, then tragedy kicks in.
Yeah.
I know we talked about your son. Your son OD'd, right?
Correct. Yep.
And that was very tragic. And for you, I think you lost your son, or you lost your dad somewhere in the same
My mom,
general
my
vicinity.
mom first, yeah.
Oh, your mom first. How much of this? So, was it all this tragedy that caused you to attempt to take your own life, or was there pre-existing stuff that had, awoken?
No, I don't remember any of that other than just feeling. So I was this was 2015, so I would have been, I guess, 51 at the time. And so I had the general sense that I have now from back then was that, like you mentioned, so Griffin passed away, my mom passed away shortly after that, about 8 months later. Around that time, my dad had what started out to be acid reflux, turned into esophageal cancer, and he was on a kind of a slow, steady decline. And there was, so it was terminal early.
What was your dad's first name?
Carl.
Oh, Carl.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
And so, and then I think it was just, the transition out of football wasn't all that bad. Like I started coaching Griffin's football team early. That was 2001. So that was right as the season just got started, 9/11 happened. And then, and I also, I won't get into all the details, but started some sports broadcasting and was working with Fox. In fact, early on, I was going back to 9/11, the first college game I had was not long after that with Fresno State and Boise State. And it was at Fresno State. And it was like a week or two right after, because the LAX was shut down, like all the...
After 9/11.
Yep. And so I remember going there, and it was like, I was like the only one in the airport. And but then anyway, so like I said, I moved fairly quickly into sports broadcasting, coaching Griffin and Dylan's youth football teams, Griffin's first, because they were like 5 years apart. And then, and then just Griffin went through kind of a lengthy process with, even prior to drugs, he had some issues, sort of just brain issues, that kind of kept him from, he had a hard time school-wise and friendship-wise. And so, it just started him down on a path where eventually it led to him taking drugs. And so he kind of had a lengthy, probably year and a half, I'd say, I don't know if you'd call it a battle, but where he was in treatment for it, both inpatient and then outpatient, where he'd live at home and then I'd drive him in. And so then, he kind of got out of the outpatient part around the early part of 2011. And, but there was sort of a shift in him even prior to getting out, where it just, his thinking sort of just shifted away from where he'd started to, I'd say, at least be insightful, not just about others, but about himself. And then that started to kind of wane. And so this would have been early February, probably 2011. And then, his overdose happened after going a fairly lengthy time without any drugs in his system. And from what I've heard, that's when somebody goes back after having done drugs, they typically go back to a level of what they were doing before, and then your body's not ready for that.
So when skipping ahead to your suicide attempt, it's an interesting story in that you did kind of have a cry for help, I guess. I mean, you made a couple of phone calls or contacted a few people, but then most people would do that, OD on something and wait for help to come. But you shot yourself in the head. So that's a weird mixed message. I don't know if this is coming out right. But what I mean is you put a gun under your chin, you're pretty serious about taking your own life.
Yep.
But then there's also the sort of couple of reaching out to people beforehand.
Right. So the best, like for right now, or right now, the me right now, like I can whatever happens today, I can remember what happens today or yesterday or the day before, a year ago. But back then, I don't really remember a whole much of that day. And I don't remember texting anybody or calling anybody, but it did happen. And so I guess to go backward, I I slipped off the edge emotionally where I just got really depressed all of a sudden. And I eventually went back to a friend of mine who had previously played with the Lions as a quarterback. We'd become friends over the years, and he helped start this depression center. I guess that's what you call it.
Erik Hipple?
Erik Hipple, yeah. Mm-hmm. But what it really was is like it was a depression center, no doubt. But it was a farmhouse out in Michigan near Ann Arbor. So the program was part of the University of Michigan. Mm-hmm. But so I went there first, and I went there for about 30 days. And I remember after about 2 days, I called up Erik and I said, "This place is not the right place for me." And I think I just got there too late, quite honestly. And but I don't really remember a whole much of being there, and I certainly don't remember how I got home. Now I've been told who picked me up was a friend of mine, and he had stayed with me a few days. And I guess by the look on your face, I don't know if you want me to get into this detail or not.
Go ahead.
Okay. So prior to going to this this depression center, I want to say that might have been in, say, June-ish of 2015. So prior to that, I had purchased a gun, and it was at a Simi Valley gun store. And I remember walking in there having this internal feeling like, how is everybody not reading what's, like, I'm buying this gun for a reason. How's anyone not going to see that? But I bought it, but you just can't take it that day. And so I think there's a waiting period, right? A cooling off period. So then I go away to this depression center, and while I'm gone, I remember thinking a time or two, well, this gun's going to be gone by the time I get back. And they're going to have sold it or whatever. Well, they didn't. And this friend of mine had told me that I told him. He's the one who picked me up from the airport and stayed with me. And apparently I told him what I did, where I got it. And so he took my driver's license over there. And he said, hey, he showed him driver's license. If this guy ever comes in here looking for that gun, this is what he's going to do with it. And yet, however many weeks after I got back, I went to that same gun store and picked it up. And I think at some point after coming back home, I began planning my exit, and it was a financial one. So I was kind of putting everything in place for everybody, including Dylan, my son, and then there came that day where there was nothing left to do. And I remember driving over to the Goodnight Inn and even, having dinner like at a certain time, and went down the road to a restaurant I'd been to before.
Do you remember what you ordered? Like that's your last meal.
Right. There was a friend of mine I went to high school with. I said, you mean you had your own last supper?
Yeah.
And yeah, I did. And I think that was, I don't remember being hungry.
Did you have to get drunk or high or anything? Or
nope.
Just sober?
Sober. Yep. But I must have not been quite as much of a cold-blooded killer of myself that I think I was. Like I was obviously texting people, friends of mine, saying where I was and what I was going to do. And so yeah, I ate dinner. I don't remember much of what happened after that, but eventually I came back to that room, and apparently it was a combination of calling people, texting people, having a gun in my hand, and eventually there was nothing left to do with that.
You put the gun under your chin?
Yeah, there was a mark there.
And just fired straight up?
Apparently so.
And how is it? Well, first off, how does that not kill one?
Right, because I'd researched this now.
You did?
I did.
And you're like, this is the way to do it.
If you look on the computer, so I still have the computer. I don't use it anymore. But if you go scroll through the whatever I looked at, it'll be on there.
We went to the history.
Thank you. Yeah. And as the number one way to do it, that was it.
What was the pistol?
It was a Sig Sauer 9mm.
And
as though I know guns, which I don't.
Right, but that's the way to do it.
So it was said.
And when did it come to you that you were not successful? I mean, did you wake up somewhere? Did they put you in a self-induced coma or something?
Apparently so. Like I'm not the person to ask about what happened because I don't know what happened. What I've heard is that I was put into an induced coma for like a few weeks, several weeks, 6 weeks or something. And this was at Northridge Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I went to UCLA. I guess they have a brain trauma part over there, but that was for a couple weeks. And then ultimately I ended up at CNS, which is Center for Neuroskills. It's over in Encino on Ventura Boulevard.
And the bullet went through your tongue.
Yeah.
Into your brain.
Well, through my nasal cavity. And then this friend of mine Don Teagle, he's an optometrist. The same guy that said this went through your, this is your last supper. He's an optometrist. He goes, how this thing didn't go through your, what is it, your orbital, or your, it's the nerve for your eyes. He goes, how it didn't go through there, I don't know. But it didn't.
Did it lodge somewhere?
No.
Went through the top of your head?
Yep. But I will say that I've had in the NFL for its former players now, I don't know how long this has been happening, but you have a brain and body assessment, at the end of your career sometime, or at some point. So I did that. And part of it was they took a CAT scan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to do an MRI, but I guess there's shrapnel in there still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And the bullet passed through the top of your skull. I mean, through your scalp.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Out your head.
Yeah.
And
so I didn't have much of a head there for a while, skull-wise.
You look completely normal now.
Well, that's modern medicine. Thank you.
Wow.
But I had this part was gone.
Your forehead. Yeah.
So if you looked at me from the side, it would have gone back like that.
Did you have a feeling at some point that, I don't know, divine intervention or a new lease or a purpose or a sort of feeling that this didn't happen for a reason?
Yeah, I do. And I do now. So I get to go the rest of my life making good on that. And that's so when my feet hit the floor now, in the morning, I have no association at any point in the day with those feelings that got me there now. So if there is such a thing as shooting it out of your head, I think I did that. And so there's quite a few things that, just happy to be alive would be a good way to describe how I feel every day. And then there's a lot of, I'd say, good things that are happening or I'm being a part of making happen from here on that feel good to be a part of.
What would you say to people who are thinking about committing suicide? I mean, I know it sounds like a dumb question, but I mean...
No, it's a good question. It's I would say don't. And I would say that one of the things that in all of this, that the NFL has now, every team now has a staffed clinician regarding mental health. Mm-hmm. And so I've thought about ways what can I do to get involved with that? And it's a touchy subject, because if because if you say, okay, well, got a suicide prevention program that we'd like to bring you, and they're going to go, well, what suicide prevention? Why do we need it?
Right.
And so it's kind of, you have to. I'm not quite clear on what to do about that, but what I think to get things going, it seems like young kids at schools, how you have bullies and you have social media bullies and you have, right around the time self-doubt starts creeping in your head, maybe at grade 5, 6, 7, that would be a good time to start having a program so that, kids can start learning how to, like if you had a room full of kids and you said, okay, who's been bullied here?
Mm-hmm.
And there shouldn't be a few hands go up. Okay, who's been bullied by someone in this room? There'll definitely be hands going up there. And if you can get kids talking about and sort of banding together to kind of go through this life together, to be able to talk to their friends, their family, maybe a school teacher, maybe a coach, and you kind of cultivate over time your own little circle. And then you're not the one that's going to be out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's someone that I once played college football with who was also, he played professionally, and he's my age, and he's now at a time in his life where he's going through some tough times. And when he's never gone to a therapist before, he's taken antidepressants, but they were given to him by an internist. And he, because he's lived so long not dealing with whatever it is he's going through now, it's going to be hard for him to make that step, in that number of steps, I guess. But if you get him early, and the mental health, like your own little circle of people that you grow through school with, and them with you and vice versa, and your circle starts to grow outward, by the time you get up into your 20s, this is kind of who you are now, of being able to voice things that are either bothering you or listen to things that are bothering someone else.
Well, man, you hang around long enough, you see a lot of stuff. I was thinking, we met at the beginning part of our lives, 7, 8 years old, in a park in North Hollywood. And then at some point in 1990, you were winning a bunch of games with the Detroit Lions, and I was digging ditches on a construction site going, shit, I should have gone to the Valley Dolphins with Erik Kramer. Maybe I'd be long snapping on that team right now. And then at some point I hear about your son and suicide attempt and stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, now I'm doing a bunch of good shit and he's committing suicide. And then here we are today. Like, I will give this PSA for suicide. Hang out long enough, man. Who would ever dream of this? They got hold of us at age 8 and just followed us every year for age 8. Same place.
And we only just crossed the 50 threshold. So who knows what's going to happen next?
Well, I hope a lot of good for you, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
I'm really glad you came in, and I'm glad that. I'm glad they're under these circumstances. I mean, I'm glad that you're who you are now, and I come in on a regular basis and keep us updated, because I expect a lot of positive things from you, Erik Kramer.
Thank you. I hope so too.
And I wish I could have thanked your dad in person, but I'll thank him posthumously for being impactful in my life. All right, last piece of business here. X-Chair 2020 changed the workplace forever. Some are going back to the office. Some are staying at home. X-Chair is at the forefront of the home office seating transition. X-Chair's newest innovation, LMX temperature regulation, takes seating comfort to the next level. Feeling warm this summer? Well, get a little cooling going. Set LMX to cooling. Maybe it's a little too cool. Well, set it to heating as well, or help that those tired achy muscles. Sitting on too many Zoom calls. Good. Get the massage therapy going with the LMX as well. X chairs, patented, dynamic, variable lumbar, DVL, that is. Support was already best in its class, and now with LMX comfort, it is guaranteed. Imagine regulating your body's temperature and getting massage therapy while you're working. It's X-Chair, right, Dawson?
There's never been a better time to ditch that old no-name office chair and boost your productivity by treating yourself to an X-Chair. Go to xchairadam.com now. That's the letter X, chair, adam.com, or call 1-844-4X-Chair and get $100 off your order. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee, complete comfort, and you can refinance your purchase with as little as... And you can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. Go to xchairadam.com now and use code XWheels for free X-Wheel blade casters, xchairadam.com.
Well, I'd give Erik Kramer a plug, but we just dragged him in here. He didn't have any.
Can I say one thing? I'd love to go through life with him, and it's like whatever I do, him narrate that.
Yes.
Right after I did it.
When they do the doc, or I know you got a book in you somewhere. Let
me know when you write the book. I'll do the audiobook.
He will produce it. Minneapolis coming up. I got live shows all over the place. You can go to AdamCarolla.com. And Dawson and the Smoking Kills live in Austin, Texas at the WTF Ice House. Is that correct?
That's right, on 6th Street, Austin, Texas, Friday night.
This Friday night, go out and see our own Dawson over there. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Erik Kramer and Gina Grad and Paul Bryan saying mahalo.